Hey everyone, Lance here and welcome back to the Epics'N'Stuffs channel. I was just about to sit down and do some painting. I realised I needed to clean a couple of my brushes and I thought, why not record it? I do get this question quite often in store, so now I'll have a video to point people towards if they've got any additional questions once I've answered any queries they have live. But I know there's a plethora of videos out there on YouTube detailing this already, but this is what I use and this is how I do it. There's probably different ways or different, brushes or paint procedures, but this is the way I do it with my miniature paint brushes. And to be fair, it's not too dissimilar to how I used to do it years and years and years ago when I would clean watercolor or oil brushes in that way anyway. So yeah, let's just get to it. What do I have in front of me? This is the stuff I use. So a pot of water, preferably clean. We've got the B&J Masters brush soap and preserver. I believe this is is it 1 ounce? Yeah, it's the 1 ounce pot, I think, if I remember right. I also have the brush restorer from Vallejo. Some blue or white tack, and I'll show you why later on I have that. Let's move it to the side. A dirty brush, and I think I've mentioned paper towel. Anywho, this stuff here is essentially just soap. So you could actually try this with hair shampoo or conditioner or just some normal soap or lather. You might find you get a very similar result. But you can buy this, it's fairly cheap. It's no more than £10 in the UK. You can get it off places like Amazon. Hopefully we'll start stocking it in the future. If not, there's plenty of alternatives out there as well. There's one by Monument Hobbies, which I hear is very good. Then the Vallejo brush restorer. This should set you back no more than like £6 or £7, I think, as well. And we'll be stocking that again in the near future. But yeah, I tend to clean my brushes after each painting session anyway, so this one's not too dirty, but I'll go through the process and you'll get a vibe as to what's happening. So I open up the brush restorer, I get my finger, dip it in some clean water, and I'll rub it round the inside of the cleaner. I don't put my brush in the soap directly. Reason being is, it's a harder surface, right? It's not as kind on the brush as what I'm about to do. At least I don't feel it is, but this is how I've always done it. And I'll, of the back of my hand, I will lather a lot of that down, like so. Get my dirty brush, crack it through some water, and then I will just rub it in to that soapy lather. And I will basically put it down, separate it a little bit, and then pull and drag. Pull, drag, and spin, rather. So I'm twisting as I do it. Sometimes I'll go like that and flatten the bristles to try and get the lather in between it. And if your brush is really dirty, you'll notice flecks of paint, streaks of paint, especially if you're doing it right after a session. I'll do this, swill it in water again, dry it off a little bit, swill it in water again, and then back on the hand. This way you're not jabbing it in there, getting that all dirty and minging. You're just doing it on the back of your hand and it will wipe off with a paper towel later on. If you're just going to use the preserver like this and you're not going to use any restorer, then you might want to do it on the inside of your palm. And then what you can do with that is you can use like the grooves in your fingers or your palm, and as you're pulling and twisting, you're shaping or forming a point. So you can do that as well. But I just tend to do this because I'll always use it in combination with brush restorer. And like I say, this is a lot softer than the inside of that pot. Okay, let's just close that up. So let's say it's nice and clean now, it's done, and it doesn't take much usually, unless you've got some really heavy body paints in there and stuff like that I've got right up the ferrule, which is what you don't want to do. So once it's rinsed and dried again, I will get the brush restorer. Let's open this up. This might be hard to see, but we'll see if we can get it on camera once it's focused. So you want to submerge the brush into the brush restorer, and you don't want to jam it right up so that it's all in the ferrule and stuff like that. This brush restorer does like harden ever so slightly, so you want to just keep it to the tips, or the tips, the hairs essentially. So I don't know if you can see this that well. As you push it in, it will separate the bristles. Yep, so it'll get up all in there. You're meant to leave it submerged for about 30 seconds rather, to a minute. What I'll do is I'll bring it out, and this is where I use my palm. So I'll do what I was saying before. I will shape it into a point. You won't get a perfect point like this with the restorer on. I'll show you why in a minute. And I will just basically almost like take off as much of the brush restorer as I can that it's been submerged, and get it into a rough point. Doesn't need to be perfect. Let's move that to the side. And then I'll get my blue tack or white tack. I don't usually do it this way. I usually do it on like the side of my table or on the wall or something like that. But I can use it here as an example. Once you've done this, you don't want to leave the brush upside down with that liquid still in there essentially. You want to leave it facing down, if that makes sense. So brush tip towards the floor. So what I'll do is I'll push the blue tack or white tack into a surface, and then just let my brush hang like that on it. And then what that's going to do is that brush restorer is essentially going to pull all the bristles together to a point, and then it's going to harden. Not too hard. If you've ever opened a brand new brush before, you might realize that you need to push the brush into some paper or paint or water or something like that to free it. It essentially is what they do with brand new brushes. So you leave that for a couple of hours. That will kind of like harden a little bit, not too much, but it'll bring everything to a point, and then you can just rinse it in some water and you're ready to go again. And then once it's done, dusted, all hardened, I'll take the brush off there, and I will put my plastic protector on it, and then it goes back in its brush case. And then that's it, essentially. Done, dusted. That's how I clean brushes. It only takes a couple of minutes. And if you do it as religiously as I do, this is my, sometimes before, sometimes after ritual of painting, is look after your brushes, especially your expensive ones like your Kolinsky Sables and all that jazz. Because if you do, they'll last a very long time and they'll look after you. You can even do this with synthetics. There's no harm in that. Your mileage may vary depending on the type of synthetic and materials you use, but in my experience, it works just as well on the synthetics I use. So again, just to reiterate, it is the B&J Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver, the Vallejo Brush Restorer, paper towel, water, blue tack, and a dirty brush, and you're golden. So yeah, hopefully that does help some people. Give it a thumbs up if it does help in any way, shape or form. Check out our website, www.Epics'N'Stuffs.com. We sell hobby tools, supplies, Warhammer, D&D, our own miniatures, all that good stuff. And also the Patreon as well, where you get some STL files for free. And we might start posting like little tips and tricks videos like this up on there. Let us know what you would prefer, or if there's any topics or something you'd like us to talk about. Anywho, I'll stop the rambling. Take care, have fun, see you soon, look after your brushes.